3 words I would use to describe the village of Frontier is community, pride,
entrepreneurial, diverse, unique,
generous, family-oriented,
small, friendly,
peaceful, entrepreneurial, community-minded,
quiet, safe, welcoming,
home, community, and people.
My favorite things about Frontier is everyone works together as a community to get everything done. To keep this town flourishing, we have to work together, we have to host events, have to support each other to keep the town going. So everyone's really great at making sure that they support one another, everyone's events, everyone's businesses.
The willingness of people to be together, to work together, to enjoy their time together.
The things I like right now about our community is how everybody's pretty young and everybody's kind of moved back and settling in, ready to kind of put their own footprint on this community. I think it's huge in order for a small town like this to have such a youth movement. Yeah, to be able to take over the reins from people like my parents that kind of got this town kick-started, 50, 60 years ago. So
For as small a town it is, the things that you can do if you want to get involved.
The golf course is busy. We're trying to improve that to get even more people out playing on a more regular basis.
the people. Everybody is so friendly and everybody is very welcoming. You come into the rec center or fowl supper, wherever.
Everything from fall suppers to ethnic suppers to things like that where everybody contributed and meet. We're a very social area. There's a lot of camaraderie and a chance to get out.
I would say the people. I like the sense of community. I appreciate our diversity and I appreciate the other communities in the Southwest working together. We work well with our neighboring community of Climax. I think it's neat to see communities working together that way. The Village of Frontier has had a lot of reasons to not be here. We've had a lot of economical factors that have played against us and some that have played in our favor. Our will to just continue to survive is probably my favorite thing about this community.
If you can buy into what it is, it's not a bad place, these little towns. Jobs like Honeybee is going strong. 160 employees roughly now, and it's going to be around for a long time, and that's, I won't say the lifeblood of the community, but it contributes along with the ag and oil. We've got a very diverse economy here.
we have a lot going on down here as far as the oil field industry. We also have Honeybee manufacturing, which is very huge to our community. It's a great farming and ranching community. There's best of both worlds, I guess. You're starting to see more and more hired men kind of move into the area, and it definitely helps out the rest of the community in that way. We have the Great West Railroad here. They are a big supplier to our small town community needs with being able to ship grain here right in town at the elevator here or further down the road at Bracken. There's a lot of people around here that still use them, and it pays big time being able just to truck your grain to town here.
The landscape of this community of really rural Saskatchewan and in a whole, we're lucky to have the oil. And now our neighboring communities are finding helium in their areas, which is very exciting to diversify all of our portfolios here. But I would say the community of Frontier would not be here if it weren't for agriculture, for farming. That's what put these small villages on, where they are. Our foundation would be agriculture, much like it is in every rural Saskatchewan village and town. So it's very important to us, which keeps us alive.
Frontier is based around farming and ranching. Everybody who doesn't farm or ranch in some way, shape, or form has their hand in it, whether they help with their insurance, hired men, people who work at Honeybee, buy beef from the ranchers.
Majority of people that live here or that live in the RM or surrounding communities, that's what their profession is. They're farmers. Farmers built these communities. They built our infrastructure in these communities, and it's much thanks to them that we're still alive today. To support our local businesses, support our structures like is our rink and our rec center, our swimming pool in Climax, our healthcare centers. It's thanks to them that they're still here today.
Businesses I remember in town I remember Prime Pro growing up as a kid because my older brother worked there for a little bit. I also remember GNR because I worked there during school hours cutting meat with Gary Bakken, and that was a lot of good memories, of course, made with him.
I remember going to the lumber store too, Swarbrick's Lumber, and I remember getting paint. because my mom loved to paint and going to get paint to paint our bedrooms. I remember when my grandma owned SGI.
What businesses? Well, there was Gulf Oil. There was Onerhiem Motors. Higginstead Store, just across the street. A.O. Anderson's shop, which is where the barn is. That was a machine shop. A.O. Anderson and his wife, Hilda, also ran just across the street here on Main Street, the John Deere dealership.
Well, my dad's business would be one. Dad was a Petrocan agent here in Frontier for many years, and before he was Petrocan, it was Gulf Oil. And I think he was involved with that for more than 30 years. Sold fuel, oil, batteries, and then he did the bulk fuel business. So he'd go around filling tanks on farmers' fields with his bulk truck.
Ackland's, where Bumper to Bumper is today. There was a video and paint store, Esso service station. Beaver Lumber, the building that we're actually sitting in right now.
I suppose the Co-op store and Hastings, that was a good store too.
My grandpa's garage, and they used to have a gas station there as well. The old car wash, the Waltz Billiards.
Waltz Billiards, that was a hangout for us kids. There was a kind of a pool hall pinball machine. Yeah, there was like 10 pinball machines in there. Onerhiem Motors and the Massey Ferguson dealer. I even remember Obie Anderson's shop, if you will. Kind of remember that he was the barber, the hair cutter. That I just have little visions of Charlie, I think was his name, Charlie the barber.
His name was Charlie Tonkovich, shoemaker down there. He wasn't just a shoemaker, he cut your hair and
I miss Sears a lot. I had a lot of fun at Sears. And remembering, I guess we still have a store, a local store, right? But I do remember it being G&R's just because my uncle owned it and my grandma worked there and we spent a lot of time there.
Freakstead days when the town was really booming back. Yeah, it was a booming place back then. And the bar, they had some really good owners back in the day. Times when Freakstead's their shift was over, there was a lineup to get in out the door. You had to be there before 5 o'clock. You weren't getting a seat in the bar kind of things. With Freakstead and the boom going on, there's close to 700 people at that time. All the duplexes were full. And there was no shortage of parties at night in the duplexes.
And of course, we had Freakstead Manufacturing. Basically, they started out building cultivators for their own use. They worked pretty well, obviously, because then the neighbors came along. They all wanted one, and then the neighbors up down the road 50 miles and 100 miles, and then pretty soon they were in manufacturing. Now Freakstead is Honeybee Manufacturing.
Honeybee requires a bunch of workers. So we have workers that come from East End, Valmarie, Bracken, Shaunavon, Frontier, and surrounding RMs and villages. We've had a lot of Filipino families that have moved into the area because of Honeybee, because Honeybee could give them work. And then they bring their families, and so we have a lot of Filipino culture here now. And they do have lots of events themselves that they get together for.
I would say the most unique thing about Frontier would be Honeybee Manufacturing. Honeybee is one of our more unique, makes us the most unique because it is a larger business based in a village of a population of 370.
I think Honeybee has a big role. I mean, I would say over 50% of the population probably has worked there or does work there, one part in their life.
It's the hub of your community. It's where people meet, people talk. Thank God we've had the rec center. It's filled a void that we take for granted. It's not an easy place to run, believe me. Sat on the board there for 7 years. The type of events that go on there, pretty significant.
Rec Center is a key feature for the RM, the surrounding RMs and villages, and the village. The Rec Center is sort of, I would say, the hub of the community.
I think the rec center is one of those things that make us quite unique. 40 years ago, we had a need in town for larger facilities for our rink and our curling rink. They outgrew their kitchens, they outgrew their waiting rooms. A group of people got together and decided that they needed more than just waiting rooms on their recreational facilities, that they needed to build something for kids, for recreational all throughout the year. They added the rec center, where there's bowling, there was mini golf, there's an awesome little fireplace where you could sit and enjoy the ambience of that. There used to be skylights, there's a fountain. It was, in its time, it was a phenomenal facility. And it still is a great facility now. It was definitely the envy of all rural communities when it was built. And I've heard of people, they love bringing their kids to Frontier to play hockey because there's more for other kids to do. There's play centers, and there's a bowling alley, and there's ice cream, and there's a year-round, basically a restaurant based out of the rec center. It's served as those purposes for recreation, but it's also served for more serious matters like funerals and family events, people that rent the place out during the year, and other special events. It's kind of the center for the community to come together. It's the focal point of Frontier. When there's a fun activity going on, you can guarantee it's going to be based out of the rec center.
Some of my earliest memories in Frontier would happen to be coming to this rink and going to senior hockey games. I think those really stuck with everybody in my age group, whether it was watching senior hockey back in the day or playing mini sticks the whole game and then going home and passing out because of how exhausted it would be. Probably the senior hockey games here in this rink were probably my best and earliest memories. So I was very fortunate to grow up with a bunch of boys that played a lot of athletics, and we were able to string together some championships that no other teams were able to do in this community, and it was pretty cool in order to look back on that now. When I was in grade 11, we won bronze in volleyball, and the last team to do that would have been my brother Bryce, and that was 1998. Followed up grade 12 year, and we won a gold medal to a boys provincial championship, and we're the first ever team to do that in town. And then that year we also won the midget D provincial championship, the first ever team to do that too. It's kind of neat.
I think sports is very important, and we talk about that community spirit thing again. It's still very alive, but 50 years ago, it was Frontier had sports teams, Climax had sports teams, Shawnham and East End, and we all fought. And it was that sports competition and that sports conflict, it dug into people's personal lives, and there are people still to this day that are probably mad about that.
It was really hard-nosed hockey. Like back then, the communities didn't get along like they do now. Like you didn't party with the other team afterwards. It was like you go to East End and you got the hell out of town right away. Even Climax, the big rivalry between Frontier and Climax was huge. You know, there'd be scuffles in the stands if somebody did something wrong to somebody out on the ice. I only played for a couple of years and then moved away, but for the most part, you carry on the relationships with the guys in other towns now, like at your age, or you remember back when so-and-so did this on the ice, the night we beat Shawnham with 8 guys, and they were a stacked team back then, you know. And just the players that came through, like the Jim Currys and the, you know, guys like that really brought another level of hockey to the area. And of course we had standouts in our, like the Clares and Rod Thorings and guys like that could really play. That's what made this the winter. Like you were just being at the rink, and Saturday night there'd be 300-400 people here watching a hockey game.
My dad actually was the manager with the Frontier Flyers for years and years, and he was very passionate about his sports teams. When I go to work in other communities, they ask me who I am and who I'm related to, and if I say him, they know right away. They're like, he was the guy, we saw him at the rink all the time. So sports was important. It put these communities on the map and would be a big factor in the pride of the community.
People come to town for hockey games, for example, in the winter, especially for minor sports, and it's usually earlier in the days or the weekends. Businesses like the End of the Line benefit from that because people come in here and pick up the trinkets, the toys, the books, that kind of stuff. But they also might stop across the street at the grocery store. They'll make sure they buy something at the rec center. They'll probably maybe go to the bar for the Chinese food that's in that facility now. Plus, places like the bar benefit from curling, hockey games in the evenings. People go up and have a drink or two.
I never thought I would years and years ago, but when I moved back home, I got conned into come curling. So I did, and I've learned to really like it. I've quite enjoyed curling, but it's a team sport, which I think makes me dedicated to it. Makes me get out of the house and go curl. It gives me something to do in the winter. It's important. I think it's a fun game, keeps you active, gets you out of the house. We have a quite successful curling community. We usually have, I think, 12 or 14 square draw rinks, and that's quite a good number for a community our size. It's a pretty curling focused town.
Golf course. To me, it's one of the nicest little sand green courses in the province. Our layout is challenging enough for a decent golfer and forgiving enough for the higher handicap golfer. It has a long tradition. It was built back in the 60s and has gone through a few modifications. We take pride in it. As a kid, it was awesome for me because I'd rake the greens, the sand, and that would pay for my entry fee into it. The guys would pay me a quarter or 50 cents to rake the sand for them. So I look at the provincial championships that the high school has won there. You know, you learn how to golf here. It may not be the prettiest and the most lush course around, but you still got to swing a club and hit it straight and have a lot of fun. When you go out there and look at it, it's a nice little well-kept golf course. We take pride in it, so it's good.
I spent a lot of time out there as a kid. One of my earlier memories actually is going golfing with my dad. And growing up, we spent lots of time out there. I was probably golfing every day for a while with a few different people, and just something to do in the summertime was awesome. We've hosted provincials golf, the Sand Green High School golf provincials out there twice. We've had a very successful Sand Green golf team based out of here in high school.
We have Wednesday night golfs. Some days you get 5 people, some days you get 30 people, but it's just a Wednesday where we all gather and we go out, golf, have a couple drinks, cook some burgers. Then they have tournaments throughout the year, which usually draw a crowd not only from Frontier, but from surrounding communities. It's a really fun time, a really welcoming place with a brand new clubhouse.
My earliest memories, well, probably would be my grandpa ran the garage store, or the garage right across the way. We lived in the country, so we didn't get to town very often. But when he did come, he always brought us boxes of raisins, and like chocolate covered raisins. So then, because he ran the post office too, and he had like 10,000 keys, and then eventually he didn't, so then we had the keys all the time. But my grandpa lived just down the street from the store, so.
One of my earliest memory of Frontier is the Saturday nights when the stores all stayed open till late in the evening. People would come to town for their weekly shopping. They'd go to the movies. Some warm summer nights, there'd even be some live music on the side of the street. People got the opportunity to visit. And as a result of the rural people coming into town, the people living in town got the opportunity to do a weekly visit with those people. You know, you gotta remember growing up back in those days, people only had a bath on Saturday night. For me, growing up in Frontier, I was pretty well the only one in my age group in town kid. So it was the opportunity to be with the other kids from the farms that came into town on Saturday night. And I'm not gonna tell you what some of the things we did. Don't want to embarrass myself or anyone else, but it was always fun.
Some of the earliest memories of Frontier is coming here to watch my dad play on the senior flyers team. My mom would bring us down. I remember watching my dad in the Boxing Day tournament. That's one thing that like sticks out in my mind. And even one year I remember him playing with a few of his brothers, so that's a lot of old men on the ice. The ethnic supper, that was a good one. Just coming to the rec center, spending a lot of time here as my mom drank coffee and the kids ran around and ran through all the smokers' haze.
I remember the Blue Park. My grandparents lived right beside the Blue Park, and I remember spending very many hours playing there in the tire wall that had gross moldy water in it that we would all play in. The other thing I really remember is being at Sears with my grandma Linda and helping rip the magazine covers off there and looking through sewing clothing patterns.
I remember when the sewer and the water came into town. That was, and I'm gonna really age myself, and by the way, I am old. 1964, 1965. They dug up all the streets, brought in water lines, sewer lines to every home and every business in Frontier. I'll tell you, that was pretty fantastic when you could turn on the tap and there was water running all the time. Didn't have to go out to the street and meet old Harold Shirley with his water tank and a pail. And you could have a bath or a shower more than once a week, yes. And another time too that was really interesting was when the streets got pavement. I remember it was like a whole new world. The other thing I remember is when the big grain elevator got built over here along the track, and the sadness when the 5 elevators on the west end of town got torn down.
I remember back in the 60s, before we moved to the farm, it was always, when we lived in town, there was always movie nights. Fridays or Saturday nights was a movie night, and you could go to the cafe and buy a bag of chips, a pop, and go to the movies for about $1 or $1.50. What is the hall now? They had a movie projector that I think is at the museum now. They moved it to the museum, so it's out there. It's an old girl, so lots of fun. Can't remember what the last movie would have been. Can't remember what year they stopped doing that, but that was one of the cooler things. As a kid, you could go to the theater and go watch a movie. There was a Santa Claus parade, which has been kind of regenerated now as of late in the past few years, so it's good to see, but there was always a big turnout for Santa Claus Day and things like that. So.
Say some of my earlier memories. My dad used to run the Petro-Canada station across from the inn, the motel, and my mom was a cook at the motel. And I remember going to work and hanging out at the motel and my dad's little Petro-Canada business. The people that owned the inn were the McBurneys at that time, and Logan was only a couple years older than me, so we'd hang out and on one occasion I remember we got in a rock fight. There's a big pile of almost like pit run gravel in the lot of the motel, and we decided it'd be a good idea to throw them at each other, and that hurt pretty bad. For some reason, things like Trailblazers, I remember that very well. And going to church, and I remember play school. Geraldine was our play school teacher, and my mom would oftentimes fill in for her. So I remember some of those memories as well. I loved growing up in small town Saskatchewan. It's probably the main reason I'm still here. I remember playing at the rec center, running around the rec center and hiding underneath the pool table. And no matter where you went, there was a friend. It didn't matter where you went in Frontier, whether it be the rec center or the Ball Diamonds or at the store or anywhere. Swimming pool and Climax, there was a friend there. You knew mostly everybody. I always look forward every year to like our annual Frontier Days, and we've been working together to bring that back. EDC, I can touch on its beginning a little bit. It was started in 2017 when there were several people in the community that were hoping and maybe concerned even about Frontier hosting a Canada 150 event. Many communities were hosting a Canada 150 celebration, and people here thought it was important that we do that. So I talked with Payton, and we decided that, yep, we're going to work together. We're going to pull a few people from all walks of life that live in the community to put on and to take this event and get it off the ground. We started with that. We started with a Sunday in the park, local band. We had the Filipino community involved, and they provided a food booth. The Norwegian folks around in town that are still quite in touch with their roots to put on a little food booth in the senior center. And we just had an awesome Sunday in the park. Everything turned out so well. It was so successful, people wanted to continue to see stuff like that done. At that time, Frontier Village Council was in discussion about creating an economic development position. We actually hired Payton at that time to be a community events and rec director, if you will, in that front. That was kind of the birth of the EDC, and every year we've held that similar event like we did with Canada 150. We've renamed it Frontier Days. We've had a lot of positive feedback from that, and we've started other community initiatives as well. We've got our Christmas light parade that we do in December of every year. We do our Halloween haunted house. We've done an egg hunt at the rec center during Easter time, and just anything as it comes out to make Frontier a more fun place to live.
Okay, my name is Barb Webber. I am and still an Onerhiem. I was raised in Frontier. I married a fellow from actually Ontario who worked at Frigsted Manufacturing in those days. We raised our family here, and I have worked at the RM office since 2005 and the village office since 2001.
I am Dayton Fossum. I am from Frontier, Saskatchewan. I work in the oil field with Crescent Point Energy as an operator. I also help run our family farm with my brother and my father. Family has been here now for over 100 years. We are not going anywhere.
My name is Skyler Onerhiem. I am married to Dustin Onerhiem. We have 3 kids. We live just outside of town between Frontier and Climax. And Dustin was born and raised in Frontier, never left, and I was born and raised in Climax and Frontier, and I have also never left. Neither of us ever have any plans to leave this area.
Well, Denny Wold, grandpa immigrated here back in 1912. Been on the farm. We lived in town for a bit. Dad was a carpenter, and we used to live just down to 3 houses in from the end of the rink there. Moved out to the farm in about 1970. I was a farm kid. Cows, and good thing we got rid of those, but mostly just farming after that. In the States for about 7-8 years. We had a nice sculpting business down there. Locally, moved back here and worked at Honeybee.
Owen Vasseur, I've lived here forever. My family's from here. We farmed in the area. My dad owned and operated a machine shop, tire shop, mechanical repair business. I worked with him all up until the time that he retired. I operated that business myself until 2014. I'm a village idiot, actually.
My name is Payton Ham. I was born and raised in Frontier. I work for the Village of Frontier as the Economic Development Officer. I live here with my husband and my 2 young kids. My parents were both born and raised here. My husband's parents were both born and raised here. We have strong family roots here.
I'm Brady Berg. I'm prisoner 910632. No, I'm Brady Berg. I'm the mayor here in Frontier. My family, I think I'm a 4th generation person living here in Frontier. My ancestors settled here in the early 1900s to farm. My family stayed here ever since. On top of being the mayor, I run a electrical contracting business.
Clifford Thoring is my name. And I come from a family of 9, and it might be hard to believe, but I'm the youngest. And I'd like to tell you this too, because I always think that's kind of interesting. I was the only one in our family born in a hospital. That's in Frontier Hospital, yeah. The rest are born on the farm. Wow. Yeah, it's crazy when you think of it that way, isn't it? Yeah.
Someday I will be weaker than I am now, and I still won't know everything. But when I'm passing up and over the clouds, I hope that you'll have learned from me. Someday you will be stronger than you are now, but you will not know everything. When the water's spilling over the bow, you'll still have me in the wings. You gotta get up to get down, kid. You gotta get down to get up again. You gotta get up to get down, kid. You gotta get down to get up again. Gotta get up to get down,